In this movie I will explain you how you can switch on or off one light or two lights with the same button. So I have this example with the group address of the light living room, where I will use one switch, one push button to switch on or off a light with this actor. But suppose I have another light and I take another output, for example, of the same actuator. So I go to this output and I take the second one in this group address, and I will, for example, switch on and off with same button 2.1, for example this one. Great. So I switched on or off with two different inputs. But suppose that I want to use not input 2, but I want to use input 1 for switching output 1 and output 2. So what do I have to do? Suppose that I can, for example, in the second group address, I will use again input 1, and then I could say that, for example, in this way, that input 1 is connected to output 1 and input 1 is connected to output 2. So it will work when I will download this program, but it won't work because I have to keep in mind the sending. This is sending. This means this object, the input switching, will be sending a signal 1 or 2, 1 bit, to the output switching. Because I'm pushing this push button, this is a sending object, and this is an object, output 1, who is listening to the signal 1 or 0. So when I have a look to the second group address, I see that here the sending is missing. So here it won't work because this input is not sending. So you have to know that in this program in KXN ETS that you can only use one object who is sending in one group address. You can use one object here in two different group address, but the first one there, this object will be sending, and the second one it's not be sending. It can be listening, that can also be a function, but not in this way we want to do it now. So I, for example, can also say I will change this, and I will change this to set sending. So here will appear the S, and this will change. So the first one, the first group address will be sending, and when I have a look to the group address here, the S will be missing. So anyway, one of the group address, the input 1, will be sending, but not both. And if I want to, for example, switch on or off both output switching, then I have to do it in one group address, and maybe, for example, I can show you how. You can make, for example, a new middle group, and I call it a scene because it's a kind of a scene. A scene means I will change this. I will delete this because I want to show you a scene in the main group. So I have a main group scene, and I will make a middle group scene also. And for example, a subaddress leaving home. And this means that I will switch off all the consumers, all the lights in the home. So which kind of lights do I want to use? I want to use, when I have a look to the actuator, output 1 and 2. So I drag and drop input 1 and 2 to this group address, and then I can use, for example, suppose now I'm using input 1, I will unlink this, and I will, just to make it in a correct way that it will work, input 2. So input 2 will be sending to output 2, and input 1 will be sending to output 1. And then I take another one, for example on line 1, a rocker. Have a look to the parameters, and I want to have a look that the first one, the rockers, the buttons 1 and 2, will be switching off. So when I command on pressing the left rocker can be an off signal, and maybe I can combine it, I can leave it like this. When you have the combination of the buttons 1 and 2, you can say that the left one will be switch on all those lights, and the right one can be switching off all those lights. But now I've named this group address leaving home, so it's better to take one button who will switch off the light, and that's the thing I want to do. So I select here the rocker function and I change it to the button function. So I have two different buttons instead of one rocker. Rocker is a combination of two buttons, on or off, and now I can program parameter those buttons separately. And now I want, for example, in this way, button 1 who will be on the command on pressing the button an off signal. So on releasing the button, no reaction, so that's the way I want it. Now button 1 here, and now I see that this will be sending to those two objects, output 1. Now you can say, I hope you will see now, that output 1 and output 2 here is not sending, because it's already used in another group address. So the question is this a problem or not? No, it's not a problem, because those two objects of those actuators, or actuator is the same actuator, are just listening, so they don't really send, a signal to the push button 1, but it's the push button 1 who will be sending a 1, no it's not 1, it's a 0 or an off signal to those output 1 and 2. So it's no problem. The way I program it now, it will work. So that's the way you have to program when you want to switch off or on different actuators, different 1-bit consumers with only one button. So this is also the way to program a scene with one group address.